Hello. So, hello. Lyndol here with part two about the production of I Dared, my album with Colin Hua. And let me see, I wanted to start because there was something I wanted to sort of explain, do a little background here on my discography. So, I'm going to show you my Bandcamp, Lyndol.bandcamp.com. Now keep in mind there's certain Fridays on a month that when you download music from here, then guess what? It 100% goes to me. Okay, because obviously when I'm streaming, it's free to you, I think. You might have advertisements, but it's practically like nothing for me, right? For artists in general, which is fine. It's just about getting your music out there in a lot of ways. But Bandcamp is a little bit of a more fair shake. And for example, you can buy my entire digital discography for $37.20, but it is a little bit tricky. And let me explain why. Because I Dared is the third album in a trilogy series. Reach Up, All Love, and I Dared are 3 albums. Okay. Then this one right here is actually a live performance at Rockman Music Hall with my trio featuring Colin Hua, the producer that I'm talking about. He played live with us because it was the CD release party for All Love, I'm sorry. It was the CD release party for this, okay? And Colin Hua, as I spoke previously, produced one song, All Love, off of this album, and he stepped in and played a few songs with us, with my trio, and this is actually from it. You can see it here. And so that's the discography is on there. And after that, it gets a little confusing because of COVID. I started reverse releasing albums of I Dared. So you don't necessarily need to buy all of my discography. It doesn't even really make sense because then you're buying singles and then you're buying the same exact version of the song on I Dared. It's not different. So I want to be clear about that. And I called it a reverse release, and I basically just did it because that's what happened. I just started releasing singles. A lot of people are just doing singles, but then I realized I still needed to fulfill my own promise to do this trilogy series. And so that's why I just decided to reverse release it, because I'd had 4 songs released, 5 songs not released. So I released a few more that way. I just wanted to show you that on my Bandcamp, because all of that is there on my Bandcamp. And then we'll go back to my Spotify. This is my Spotify. Let me share my Spotify. This is my Spotify. So all of what was on my Bandcamp is here as well. And you also have this. This was one of the first things that I ever did. It wasn't actually released by me. It was released by Eidolon Clavichord. And it's a very interesting album. It was great. I loved it. It was such a challenging, wonderful commissioned piece to learn all of the songs of Dave Brubeck's Nocturne and to play that on this constructed Eidolon clavichord, which is an all-aluminum clavichord. So you can hear that here. It's funny because a lot of times Spotify, you're limited how you can show things. So it's oftentimes showed by the plays or what's gotten the most traction. And so a lot of times this was at the top, no matter what I released. You can see here, I only have 8 monthly listeners. So my own music wasn't streaming enough to get to the top. And so this is what you would hear when you come. And it's not necessarily the best representation of me as an artist, but I do like it because it shows that I am an artist that wants to do a lot of different things, a lot of different projects. And I did this one way back when, probably before 2012. So that's on here as well. And so back to this. We've already gone through. Oh, look at it. Is it already in a different order? So now I was showing before, last week I was showing you the order and they were in a different order entirely because I guess it was based on streams. It was just what was showing at my Spotify, but now I'm actually tuned in on the actual album. I've clicked on the album itself and it's giving it to us in order, and that's great because we can look at the order very quickly. So we talked about Love to MIC, and I have that first on this album because it was kind of the first one to really get things going with producing with Colin and getting a lot of these songs were ready. Love to NYC, I think I actually wrote on the spot and then had Colin produce it, or it was somewhere in there. But like Why Do We Fall, I'd had for a while. And let's hear a little bit of this. Is
You'll never leave her, even though she's a cheater, and you'll never let me love you the way you deserve. So why do we fall? Why do we fall for ones who never cared at all? You can't see how kind you are, but how lost you're.
okay, the production on this one is over the top amazing. I freaking love it. It's a little bit of a shorter song, and I'm going to to just like, he did it so dramatic, and he did such an interesting, complicated rhythm. So yeah, it's really an interesting, it's almost like a tango-y, he brings in instruments. It's very dramatic. If you watch the music video, I love it. It's a very dramatic. What he did with it was just over the top incredible. Why Do We Fall? And I have to give him a lot of credit for this one. And this was one of the earlier ones. I released this one earlier because it was just, the lyrics of this is about falling in your own life. It was really after I did a lot of deep diving, which was probably in like 2016, 2017, 2018, deep diving into the narcissist empath, dynamic. I was really deep into that for a little while, and I wrote this song from that place about, people like basically almost like Stockholm syndrome, right? Like worshiping people that were just kind of being abusive to us, and that's what that narcissist empath relationship can be like trauma bonded to somebody basically. But it's also, I wanted to release it at the beginning or during COVID because it was about watching people get on their rah teams about like this politician and people they don't even know, and like fighting with their family and becoming estranged from the people who cared about them in their lives because they were fighting for these people that really didn't care about them, didn't even know who they were. So that's what what is that psychology? That's the Why Do We Fall? And it's still a very applicable song, and he did such a brilliant production. Now the next one, Let It All Crumble, I also released during COVID because it was another one that I just felt like it was so timely and I just had to. And keep in mind, I have no idea why it's these two it shows plays and the rest of them don't. I have no idea. I need to go and figure that out. And if anybody happens to listen to any of this and wants to be some kind of like virtual assistant, young, savvy music marketing kind of person, I, could probably use that at some point. So Knowledge, Light, Insight. Oh no, I'm sorry. We're on Let It All Crumble. Let It All Crumble is probably my favorite song on the album. And this is one of the older songs on the album. And because you'll see that Eric Norcross did a video for this too, and maybe I should do a talk about that at some point. Amazing music video that he did for me about Let It All Crumble. And this was back when I still lived in Gowanus, so I can date it, pre-2019. And the interesting thing about this one, I'll play a little bit of it for you.
Watching it crumble in my heart dances tonight. Nothing around me shines, still my mind sees the light.
So this one is that even the chord progression is a bit more jazzy, whereas the last one, Why Do We Fall, the chord progression is relatively simple. I mean, I've actually had it covered by a great band, Queens County Roots. And it was meant to be a song that's easily learned, easily played, easily jammed on a G minor. And really, Colin, I have to give him so much credit for the production of it. I don't remember when I sent him, but I don't think it was anything close to the sound that he pulled out of it. Whereas Let It All Crumble is a little different. I actually did almost get this exactly the way that and I'm not gonna say exactly, because I know Colin does a lot of magic behind the scenes, but roughly the sound of it, the arrangement of it, the instruments, the Afro-Cuban, that was all my decision. And it was a jazzier song, which I do love jazz music. Um, you know, it's one of my loves, and it comes out sometimes. You know, I try to, just the way Colin is really great about, you know, hearing a song and going the direction, the style, the nuances, the way that the song calls for. I do the same thing with, you know, the chord progressions and the styles as well. But I really go somewhere between jazz and pop a lot, right? You know, some variable, and this one is more on the jazzy side. The chord progression is actually really interesting. Um, it's not an easy one to pick up, and it's largely my arrangement with Colin coming in and cleaning it up and making it sound even better. So that's what's interesting about working with him. Like, he won't go in and just, you know, change it all up just to change it, you know, because he wants to make it his sound. I think he recognized that this one, by the time it got to him, it was already pretty set in what its final version was going to be, and he just really cleaned it up. And I don't want to take away too much credit, because I know it's so much better than the arrangement I had, but as far as the bones of it, you know, and the instrumentation of it and the rhythm of it, the structure of it, it was largely what I gave him. So that brings us, we only have a few more, and I'm going a little bit faster this week. Like I said, you can check this out on my Spotify for yourself, listen to these songs, stream them. You can also go to my Bandcamp and download them and stream them there as well. Knowledge, Light, Insight was another one that he went pretty all out on. I wanted it to be funk. I wanted it to be funk. And I would say he did that.
Letting go of the old to make way for the new. I've known myself for centuries, but I know not what to do. All this knowledge, all this life, all this glory, all this fabulous inside.
So yeah, you can just hear the amazing work that he did on this one. Not only is it funky, it's so much more than that. He has a way of, when it goes to the chorus, which is all this knowledge, all this light, like this elevating feeling, you know, like a floaty feeling. And then you hear the biddy, you know, his little horn cues that come in. And then I'm just going to skip to the end, because what he did with, now this was my outro. The basic structure of this song is largely what I gave him, but he did,
When I get through this now.
so that's just a creative breakdown that he did to go into another one of his really cool solos. And then I'm going to skip towards the end, because I did like I had a slow outro, an echoing outro on my production of it. And you can hear it there.
Teach me, lead me, show me where to go. Love me, find me, what I already know. Teach me, show me where to go.
Yeah, so then that's when he came in with that, you know, going into the slow like I did, but then bring it back into the funk and the fun and the dance, almost like a dance. This is maybe, the way it is at the end is like a dance version, right? Like a, you know, club version or something of it. Fantastic. So that's Knowledge, Light, Insight. And I believe that that is everything except going back to analog, which actually was just my production. So if you want to hear, the way that my production sounds versus his, this is the one song on the album. And I just, I put this on there because, it was sort of time to put the album together. And I didn't really have a children's song at the time that I wanted to put on there. I haven't been as involved with education the last 5 years, though I am still teaching online. I haven't, been involved with some of the projects that were having me write music for children. So I didn't have any originals just kind of sitting there. And I did have this one sitting there that I love. There's an incredible music video that I did to it. It's just one of my all-time favorite works. And this was a song that it kind of works that it's not maybe as, it's not a production like a Colin Hua production, because it was almost like a one-take wonder. Like I just sat down and threw this sucker together one day, and then I didn't want to change a darn thing about it. Let me play a little bit of it. I could go on and on. I love it. I wanted to share it. I wanted to share it in exactly its state. I didn't really want anything changed. And sometimes that can happen to us. Like it could be that this song could be improved upon. There's certainly times you'll hear where I actually, it's like two notes, like I do it like a second. But I wanted that, it gets back a little bit more to a sound that I'm probably moving more towards in the future, which is the jam bands, the just funked out, creating that tension so that you can release. And that's really what the song is about, because it's going back to analog. And so the whole first part is supposed to be like the corporate digital technocracy kind of world. And then the second part of the song, I get into yeah, so that gives you an idea of going back to analog. And that's the only song not produced by Colin Hua on this album, but he did master it for me. And he did actually master it for me like right at the last minute, because, like many things, even like me putting these videos together, a lot of things has just been last minute. It hasn't been pretty, but I get them done. And Colin was so fantastic to just, even in the middle of him having some, busy stuff going on, he got it mastered for me so that it would work on this album. And that's it. That's my I Dared, and that's my huge thank you to Colin Hua for sharing his time and talents on my album. I just couldn't be more grateful, and it's such a joy to listen to music, songs that I've created, and to truly enjoy listening to them. So thanks for listening and sharing, but I hope also that this is inspiring you and your creative projects, whatever they might be. And also, I want to say, that I'm recognizing this is showing me how much I want to work with producers and get out of the need or the control to always produce all of my songs. I mean, there's going to be some that I produce, and then there's going to be a lot of others that I want to hand off, even some of these. Right? I mean, there can be multiple iterations of a certain song, and there certainly are when you go from a production to how you're performing them live and how you're arranging them for any scenario. And when you're in my situation, you're playing solo sometimes, you're playing with this group sometimes. So these songs are ever changing and effervescent. But I will say that what Colin did for them, it's hard to imagine improving on, because I'm just so thankful for the work that he did, and for the ways that life brings us the people and that we can collaborate with. So that concludes this portion, excuse me, of the I Dared vlogs, I think. Of course, I'm always a little bit unpredictable, so who knows. But For the most part, that does sort of explain all the nuts and bolts of the album, and we shall see what's coming up for me in the future. But in the meantime, like, I hope that sharing some of this information is helpful and that you can take it and use it for your own creative projects, because it's, I think, more important than ever that as human beings, we continue to develop our musical projects and talents, and that we don't just try to become automatons, because listen, we're not going to be able to compete with the robots if that's all we can bring to the table, right? We need our creative power.